Good morning, everyone. I'm running just a hair late. Y'all bear with me just a second. I gotta get my oven on. Hope everyone's doing okay this morning. I'll have to grab my apron. I didn't realize it was 10 o'clock. Welcome to Pinky Ma's Cakes, Cookies, and Candy. I'm Linda, and I'm just gonna be cooking up just a little bite of breakfast today. Mary's not feeling well this morning, so I talked to her earlier, and I told her not to worry about it, that I needed to fix a little bit of late breakfast. So y'all come fix some breakfast with me. Let me grab my apron so I can get started. Mike's watching Storage Wars. I told him I was on live. I don't have the mics yet. I ordered them, but I don't have them. So hopefully y'all can hear me. I turn this up as loud as it'll go. So this is not anything new that I'm doing, but I got some milk on, probably about a little over 2 cups of milk that I've got heating. And I'm going to preheat my skillet and just brown. These are brown and served sausage from Sam's. I think they're Jimmy Dean's. I'm just going to brown these, but I need to grab some canned biscuits out of the oven. I remember when we were kids and canned biscuits first come out, Edward has told me many times that Pinky Pa and I think Uncle Buddy, our cousin's daddy's brother, they were just took over by canned biscuits. They thought that was just the greatest thing in the world, and they would buy them little cans of canned biscuits, and they wasn't near as good as they are now, but they were a big novelty back in the 50s when we were growing up. So I'm gonna show y'all how I do mine. Do them just a little bit different. And so let me grab a can out of here. They had these on sale at Brookshire's. Watch what I'm doing so I don't get my skillet too hot here. Pour a little bit of oil in here. I don't want much, just a tiny bit to get these sausage added, and I can add some more when I start to do the gravy. So these are a Southern style. Brookshire's had them on sale, and you have to be careful with the sell by date on something like this. So I didn't get a couple of cans because I didn't want them to go out of date before I cooked them. And it's not something I cook real often. The direction says cook them on 375. I cook them a little bit higher than that. I turn the oven up to 385. Let's see if I can get this to pop open. Ooh, yeah, this pop. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to use just some shortening here to grease a 9x13 pan. Now, you may think I'm pretty generous with this, and I am. And I'm also going to add some butter to it too, but I'll show you that in a minute. I'm making a lot of noise. I'm going to grease the sides and the bottom. Half a stick of butter, salted butter, in the microwave, and melt that. Mike don't like the middle, so he pulls the middle of the biscuit out. But the way I do these, they get real crispy, and I like the way they get. Now, if you want to do yours different, you can stagger them, whatever, but the biscuits really need to be touching each other for them to rise, so I'm just putting mine like that. And I'm going to add these sausage in here. I like these because they come in 6 to a package, and depending on how many you're cooking for, this is just a good amount for us to cook for one meal. If I can get the thing open. Oh, I'm on the wrong end. It just pulls apart like this. And I've already had these thawed out in the refrigerator, but if you don't remember to take them out of the freezer, you can always stick them in the microwave and thaw them out just a minute. Oh, shoot. Oh, God. Yes, now I gotta wash this off. Slow down. We had a really good rain last night. We needed it. Probably put just a little bit too much grease. These are done. You just want to cook them. I mean, get them brown. It's not like you're cooking them. They're already fully cooked. But I like to get them brown. My butter is not completely melted, but I'm gonna, I think I can stick right there just about 10 more seconds. Because I poured that butter over these biscuits. And it's gonna look like there's an awful lot of oil in here, but trust me, it makes these biscuits so good. Just about half a stick. Now this is not something people eat every day. We certainly don't. Not something that most people would eat every day because it is, high calorie. But it's a treat every once in a while. Now I'm going to use the same bowl to break my eggs in that I scrambled. And I got the oven preheating, so I'm just going to leave that out. Let's see if this is getting hot. I'm sure most of you know what today is, but when I was coming in the kitchen just a few minutes ago, I got the milk out and I looked at the date and I said, oh my goodness, today is May the 27th. Mama passed away May the 27th, 2003. And I normally think about it, it's about 10:15 in the morning. There was a whole bunch of us there. And I'm not going to talk about this in that context a long time, because if I do, I'll start crying, and I don't want to do that. But I do want to talk about Mama today a little bit. So, the time goes by so quick, and in some ways it seems like it was yesterday, and some a lifetime ago. And I'm sure that those of you who have lost your mothers or someone close to you probably know what I'm talking about. But I did want to acknowledge that today for Mama. And yesterday I was doing a little bit of embroidery, and I'll show y'all in a few minutes. And what I did is I got out some old material, some white material. I have a whole case of strips, big strips, remnants of white material, and I wanted to make some little pillowcases to put on little small pillows that I have. And so I decided I would do some embroidery, and I said I'll have to get the sewing machine out to make these pillowcases. And y'all know pillowcases is about as simple as you can get. My beeper went off in the oven, so I'm going to pop this in the oven and turn my timer on for about 12 minutes, and then I'll check them and see if they need to cook longer. And I was thinking about when Mama, the sewing machine, and I've got a sewing machine. It's just a little simple sewing machine from Walmart. I think it cost $79. And I haven't used it in many, many times. Oh, I see Michelle, your mother passed away in 2023 on May the 27th. Well, I know that you miss her very much, and all of us do who have lost our mamas and daddies. And I thought about that sewing machine yesterday, and something that happened Mama was she was getting toward, not right at the end of her life, but she still knew things, but she was on a lot of medication, and she kind of, she would forget. Now, she wasn't diagnosed with any kind of bad dementia or anything. She always knew us kids, but she did lose her memory from time to time. And so I got out the sewing machine, and we were going to do something. And anybody that knows me for any amount of time knows that sewing is not my thing. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's not my thing. I didn't like it when I was young. I didn't like it when I was growing up, and I don't like it now. But I do know how to sew a little bit, just a tiny bit. So I got that sewing machine out that day, and Mama had her little house robe on, and I set it on the counter here, and I had everything out. And in my mind, because in a kid's mind, no matter how old you are, you still think your mama knows how to do things. And certainly Mama, who had done things all my life, could do anything, literally anything. I just figured she would just go right to that sewing machine and thread it. She did not know how to thread it. And she looked at me and she said, now don't make these get too brown, so I'm gonna take these up in just a minute. I gave the stuff over to her, and like she was just gonna take over and do it. And she looked at me and she said, "What do you want me to do?" And I started laughing, and she said, "I don't know how to thread it." She said, "You." I said, "Mama, I don't know how to thread the sewing machine," and I really didn't at that time. I didn't know how to thread it. I did learn how to thread it after then, but at that time, I didn't know how to thread it, and I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life. Now, I am not going to use all of the sausage, all of this. I was going to put in some fresh grease, but we'll put a little bit of salt in here, because I always salt my oil. That was about, not quite a teaspoon of salt, and about a half a teaspoon of black pepper. And then I'm going to, after this gets, I guess it's pretty hot, I need to turn it down a pinch. I'm going to add some flour. And I think this is 2 tablespoons, so let me whisk this up. See, I don't want to make a ton of gravy. That's always my problem. I always make too much. So this is probably going to be about 3 tablespoons of oil that I've got in here. Right now I may have to add a little bit more. We finally got that sewing machine threaded, but that was one of those days that was bittersweet. You don't, it was heartbreaking to me that Mama didn't remember how to thread the sewing machine, but it was also funny because she was expecting me to know how, and I didn't know how. And it's one of those things, that memories that I look back on, and it still makes me laugh, because it was just, it was just a completely different era for me to have my mama, who had taught herself to sew when she was young, and for her to be sitting at that sewing machine and not know how to thread a machine. It was a wake-up call to me. Now, if it had been Mary sitting there with her, she would have just threaded it right away, but not me. I didn't know how to do it. So, when we were kids, look at this here. Y'all have heard me tell about in home economics, where my favorite thing in home economics was cooking. That's what I like to do. I like to cook. And during the sewing time in home economics, I was okay as long as I was in class, because, our teacher, she would come around to each station and she would help us individually. And, but when I got home, it was a different story. I would get so frustrated and so anxious and upset, because I didn't know what I was doing. And because Mom and Mary knew what they were doing, even though Mary was a kid, they didn't want to help me. And I'm not saying this to be, to put them down or anything, but they didn't want to help me because they wanted me to learn how. And I just thought it was terrible because they would not help me do what I needed to do, and I couldn't do it by myself. But I finally did get it done. I finally figured it out, and I made what I needed to make. It was over the Christmas holidays, and it was going to be a 6-week braid, and it was a jumper that I was working on, and I finally did get it together. But then never even considered sewing to ever be in my future until I was probably, I don't know, maybe 40-something years old. And I bought a sewing machine and I bought some material. And I said, I am going to learn how to sew if it kills me. And I got this, need to add my milk here. Let's see if I can get this over a little closer for y'all to see. I'm going to put some more liquid in here. Now, milk gravy is not something that I make a whole lot, but I do make it because I like the taste of it, and it's something that Mama made when we were kids. But back to when I bought the sewing machine and bought some material and bought some patterns, Mama never sewed with a pattern. She always would just freehand and cut out whatever she was making, and that was hard for me. It was hard to see how somebody could just do something so easily. And I just, I could read a pattern, but it was just, I think more than anything else, it wasn't something that interested me. So I said, well, that's not my thing, and there's no use for me to waste my time on it. But I did make some skirts. In fact, I made several, and I wore them for quite a while. I actually wore the skirts, so they didn't come undone. They stayed on me. I don't think I made but one with a zipper in it, but I made several with elastic, just a pull-on skirt with elastic waist. And I was pretty proud of myself, even though they might not have looked like something my mama would have made. I was still pretty proud of myself. The main thing is because I stayed with it. And a lot of times when we don't do something, it's because out of fear, or either we're not interested in it, we don't like it. So it was just something that I just really wasn't interested in. I had plenty of things that I was interested in, but sewing wasn't one of them. So, but I am going to sew these pillowcases and put them together, because I'm putting a lot of time in the embroidery. I mean, I see one comment on there about the liquid. I always add warm liquid to my gravy, and that is a preference that I do. If you prefer cold or something, then certainly that you can do that. But I like the warm because it makes it start cooking better, quicker, and it also makes it smooth out quicker. I'm going to taste this to see if it needs something else in it. That is so good. It doesn't need any salt. I am going to put a little bit more liquid in here, just to thin it out a little bit. And the longer you cook it, if you can't get the lumps out of your gravy, you could not have maybe put enough oil in it, or maybe you haven't whisked it long enough. And if worse comes to worse, and this is probably will sound funny, but you can always take a mixer and mix it up, not in your skillet, but in a bowl, and mix it up to get it smooth, or you can strain it in a strainer. I don't think I've ever done either, but you could do that if you wanted to. You could also use canned milk. That's what Mama used most of the time. She didn't we didn't keep fresh milk at our house unless it was cow's milk that Daddy would buy. He would buy the gallon jugs of cow's milk, and I wouldn't have touched it if my life would have depended on it. I was just no way I was going. I wasn't a milk drinker anyway, and I wasn't about to drink fresh cow's milk. But my daddy loved it, and he loved fresh buttermilk, so they would buy that in big jugs. So I never drank milk, hardly any, when I was growing up. Very, very little. And I don't drink milk a lot now. I like milk if I'm going to eat a bowl of chili. I like milk with chili. And maybe if you're eating a cookie or something that you want to have milk to go with it. But I wouldn't just keep milk just to drink milk. It's just not what I do. And I know it seems like I'm going from one subject to the next this morning. But I'm just going to let this cook here just a little bit, and I'm going to cook him some scrambled eggs. I'm probably not going to do that on set, but let me check my biscuits. I do want to show y'all what I'm working on here. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to think, oh my Lord, you have got a mess here, because it's got a lot of grease floating in it. But when these get done, those biscuits are going to absorb this, and I'm going to put it on top. I'm going to cook them just another 2 or 3 minutes. And I will get this out of the way here, because I'm going to do my set my biscuits up here. And then I think this is going to be okay. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. I got some fresh blackberry jelly, and we usually fix a biscuit, or at least a half a biscuit, with some jelly on it. And I love blackberries. Blackberry is my favorite fruit, and so I always keep this. Now, I didn't make this the other day. I had this made, but I will make some jelly with some of the berries that I got at the Berry Patch Sunday. Let me get a spoon here so I can put this on there, and then once I get the biscuits taken care of, I'll go over to the counter and show y'all what I'm working on, my little embroidery projects that I'm working on. This is kind of a hodgepodge today, talking about Mama and talking about making breakfast and showing my little projects that I'm working on. I almost finished one of them yesterday, and toward the end, I was taking out more stitches than I was putting in, and I just said, forget it, I got to put this up. And my shoulders and my neck and my back hurt so bad last night from sitting at this counter, and I worked several hours on this. And you might not think it takes that long to do something, but it does take that long to embroidery. You kind of get lost in the time, because you don't even realize that you spend as much time as you have until you almost. And I'm gonna mix my eggs up in here. When I cook his eggs, I just left that butter in there. I always mix them with the mixer, because I like for the egg to get mixed up really good. And I don't use, I don't have a whole lot of strength in my shoulder from where I had, the shoulder replaced. I'd rather, if I've got a mixer, I'd rather use it than to stand there and hand mix it with a fork or whisk. So I just use my mixer to do that, my cordless mixer. I seem to be dropping everything this morning. These are going to have a real crispy bottom on them. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out. Let's see if these are done. Yeah, I think these are done. And turn my oven off. This is basically just going to These biscuits are going to absorb this now. If you didn't want this, there's a little bit of sediment from the butter in the bottom of this. If you didn't want that, you can definitely take this butter out. But trust me, it is very good to just let it soak in those biscuits. It makes them so delicious. You can tell it's already almost soaked in them. So I'm just going to set this back there and turn off my gravy and come over here, give my hands a quick wash, and I'm going to show y'all what I worked on yesterday. I don't want to get grease on my pillowcases. Now I cut out 4, and this is the one that I worked on. These are the little dolls. And I still like the rest of the hat, the flowers, and the cat, and the grass. So this will fit a travel pillow. It's going to have a pretty wide hem on the bottom of it. And then I've got, I stamped them all different. And I've got one that I didn't stamp, but this one is going to have a little teddy bear. I hope y'all can see that. My hand's not in the way. And then I've got one that's got they all have little cats, so she's reading a book in the garden. And that one's going to be really pretty with all these pretty flowers down there. I think I'm going to do a mixture of colors on those flowers. And then this one she's got her little bonnet on, and it's going to have little dots on it. And this one has 2 little kitties on it. She has a little apron on. So there's going to be a lot of work to get these all finished. But I'm hoping that I can get those done. I'm going to work on this one today. Hopefully try to get that one finished and get my sewing machine out. Now I can hem the pillowcases, but I can't sew them together until I get the embroidery done, because then it's going to be too hard to go through the pillowcase. So I want to do the pillowcases, I want to do the embroidery before I sew them together. But when I get the sewing machine out, I may go ahead and just hem them to, take my pinking shears and cut the loose threads off and everything. I know this has been a quick little video here. Thank y'all so much for watching. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day. And if you're thinking about a lost loved one today, I hope that you can smile and think about some happy memories with them, and know that they were loved. And that's very important. Don't wait until somebody is gone before you show love and kindness to them. It's real easy to forget, or maybe not be as thoughtful, maybe not even forget, but not be as thoughtful. So keep that in mind. If you have somebody close to you today that you love, make sure they know that they're loved. Be sure to count your blessings and always be kind. And we'll see y'all again soon. Bye-bye.